Hi love! I saw this very beautiful corporate dress with off-shoulder lapel on Twitter and I decided to recreate it for my photo shoot. On this video, I'm going to be giving you the tutorial on how to sew this beautiful overlapping off-shoulder lapel dress. Don't forget to share, like and comment. Let's get started. For this tutorial, we'll be needing fabric, card, ruler, and alcohol, scissors, and the measurements. So let's get right into the video. We'll be needing the following measurements. And I'll be drafting on this pattern paper. First, we'll be drafting the front pattern, and the front pattern is an overlapping pattern. To start it, we are going to start by marking out our starting point. Because of the overlap in the front, we are going to be marking our waist measurement divided by 4, which is 7, and we're going to be marking it all the way down using a ruler to join these points to make a straight line. Because the front part of this dress is overlapped, all the measurements we'll be taking will be after the 7 inches mark that we made. We're going to be marking out the neck measurements, and for the front neck measurements, we're going to be going in by 3 and coming down by 3. After marking out the neck measurement, this is what we have. The next thing we'll be doing is to place our shoulder measurement divided by 2, and our shoulder is 16 by 2 is 8, and I'll be placing that point there. On that shoulder measurement, will be coming down by 1 inch, and that is going to serve as our shoulder slope. So I'm going to join our neck to the shoulder slope, and this is what we have. The next thing we'll be doing is to be placing our vertical measurement. Chest line is going to be at 7.5, bust point is going to be at 9, under bust is going to be at 12, and waist point is going to be at 15. We're going to be adding 1 inch for the joining allowance, which is 16. So we have our chest line, bust point, under bust point, and our waistline. Now the next thing we'll be doing is to draft our armhole curve. On the chest line, we are going to be placing our shoulder measurement divided by 2, just so we have a straight line coming from the shoulder point. Next thing we'll be doing is to find the midpoint of the line, and on that midpoint we'll be going in by 1/2 inch. I'll be using my curve ruler to make a curve touching from the shoulder slope to the midpoint and to the chest line. This is going to serve as our armhole curve. Next, we are going to be drafting our darts, and for the dart, we are going to be marking nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. I'm going to be marking it on the bust point, on the under bust, and on the waistline, using a straight line to join that. On the waistline, I will be going in by 1/2 inch, and I will be coming out by 1/2 inch. We're using a slant line to join my points to the bust point. After marking out our darts, this is what we have. I'm going to strike it out. The next thing I'll be doing after taking out my dart is to place my horizontal measurements. The bust point, I'll be placing my bust round divided by 4, and I'll be adding 1 inch allowance because we are working with a very stretchy fabric. The waistline, I'll also be placing my waist measurement divided by 4, replacing my dart with a 1 inch sewing allowance. Joining those points together like so to the waistline. Just be looking at what I'm doing so you understand. Now, because the front pattern is overlapped, I'm going to be extending my chest line, and I'll also be extending my waistline to the end of this line. After extending my vertical lines, the next thing I'll be doing is to get our overlapping point, and I'll be drawing a straight line from the shoulder to the under bust because that's where I want it to go. I don't want the overlapping to go all the way down. I just want it to stop around that under bust area. I'm going to make a straight line from the shoulder point to where I want the overlapping to stop. And now we are done for the first phase of the front pattern, and after cutting it out, this is what we have. I'm going to trace out the dart on the second part of this pattern paper. After that, I'm going to ahead to adding the lapels to it. On the left side, I'm going to attach an extension paper so I'll be able to draft the lapel. Next thing we're going to be doing is to mark out our bust point on this new pattern paper, just so that it crosses towards the added point, and that is where I will want our lapel to stop. On this point, I'm going to be coming out by 2.5 inches. I don't want the lapel to be too bold. Now I'm going to make a curve using my curve ruler because I don't want it to just be a straight line. I'm going to make a curve to meet on that bust line. Just be watching what I'm doing so you don't get confused. I'm going to use my curve ruler to make a curve from this point all the way down to the point of intersection between the added paper and bust point. After cutting it out, this is what I have. I'm just adjusting my tape here so that it will hold it tight, and our lapel for the left hand side is ready. I'm going to go ahead and cut for the right hand side, which is also where we have our off shoulder lapel. Because it has a yoke around that shoulder area, the first thing I'm going to be doing is to identify where I want the lapel to start. I want mine to start about 1 inch above the bust line. I'm going to just measure that point and mark it. So I'm just going to place my curve ruler. I don't want it to be a straight line, so I'm just going to use my curve ruler to make a little curve from the armhole to under the chest line. After doing that, the next thing, draw a straight line coming from the shoulder, and this new point is going to be our new neckline. Next thing I'll be doing is to mark out where I want the overlapping to stop. I don't want the overlapping to be straight because this is the part of the overlapping that is going to be on top, so I'm also going to use my curve ruler to make that curve, and this is what we have. I'm going to cut out the yoke first. Click cut out the armhole and the yoke so I know where I want the off shoulder lapel to start. If you're looking at what I'm doing, you're going to be able to understand it very well. After cutting out the yoke, the next thing is to label it. So after labeling it, cut out the remaining parts of this pattern. This is how you add your lapel. I'm going to take pieces of pattern papers to cover that up part where I want the lapel to be. I'm going to be attaching pattern papers there. It's long enough to accommodate how long I want the lapel to be, being that it's an off-shoulder lapel, so I'm just going to add enough pattern paper to accommodate the lapel I'm about to draw. I want the lapel to be starting at the midpoint, so the first thing I'll be doing is from the armhole area, I'm going to be drawing a straight line. I measured my biceps measurement, and you're just going to add your biceps measurement. Mine is 12. I marked at point 12 and drew a straight line from the tip of the armhole to the point 12. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is that from that point I'm going to come up by 2 inches. At the armhole area, I'm also going to come up by 2 inches, and I will be drawing a straight line to that point. From this armhole area now, I don't want it to be a straight line, so I'm going to use my curve ruler and make a curve that will be meeting at the midpoint of this overlap pattern. So I'm going to use my curve ruler, place it to meet at the midpoint of where I want the lapel to start. This is what your pattern should be looking like. If your pattern is not looking anything like this, that means you're not getting it correctly. So to cut out this pattern, just watch where I'm cutting. I'm cutting out the excesses from the armhole area, cutting out the lapel, and then I'll be cutting the top part of this lapel like so. Drag it just so that it meets the slope all the way down. So this is what I have after cutting it out. As you can see, if you flip it over, it forms a lapel that goes all the way around the biceps, and this is exactly what I wanted. Now this is all the 3 pieces we have for our front top pattern. Yes, you can see that fits in nicely. And for the back pattern is a basic back pattern, nothing too much to do. The first thing I'll be doing is to mark out my starting point as usual. I'm also going to mark out my zipper allowance. For this dress, I'll be using 1 inch because the fabric is stretchy, so I don't want to have excesses at the zip area. So I'm just going to mark 1 inch all the way down, and I'll be joining those points with a straight line. Label the zipper allowance area. Every measurement will be taken will be starting after the zipper allowance area because this is the back pattern. The thing I'll be doing for this back pattern is to mark out my neckline. I'll be going in by 3 inches and I'll be coming down by 1 inch. I'll be joining it with straight lines, and I'll also be making a curve for the neckline. The next thing is to place our shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 8 points, come down by 1 inch, and to form our shoulder slope. We're using a ruler to join those points, and now we have our shoulder slope. The next measurement is to take our vertical measurement, 7.5, which is the chest line, 9, which is the bust point, under bust point, which is 12, 15, which is the waist point, and 16 for joining allowance. I went ahead to label the lines, and after labeling it, on the chest line I'll be placing my shoulder measurement so that you have a straight line coming from the shoulder point. Find the midpoint, and on the midpoint of that line I'm going to be coming in by half an inch. After coming in by half an inch, I'm going to use my curve ruler to join the shoulder slope to the midpoint all the way down to the chest line to place my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which is 3.5, and is going to serve as our breast span. I'm going to place it on the bust point, on the under bust point, and on the waist point, the full length as well, and I'll be drawing a straight line to join those points. Then on the waist point, I'm going to come in by half an inch and also go out by half an inch. I'll draw a slant line from the waistline to meet the bust point. After taking out our darts, because I don't want the zipper to be bulgy at the back, on this waistline I'm just going to be coming in by half an inch, and I will be making a slant from that half an inch, blending it into the zipper allowance. That is all the adjustments you need for your zipper. To place my bust round measurement divided 4 on the bust line, we're adding about 1 inch stitching allowance. Is on the waistline, I'm going to be joining our waist measurement divided by 4, replacing my dart, which is about 1 inch, and adding stitching allowance, and we are done drafting the back pattern. After cutting it out, this is what the back part looks like. I'm moving forward to draft the skirt part of this dress. I folded my fabric into 4. If you're using a stretchy material to recreate this look, make sure you are considering the side your fabric stretches to. Marked out the starting point and went ahead to also mark out my zipper allowance. Because the skirt is going to be starting after the waist, and that is 0.15. My hip line is going to be at 23, and I'm going to come down to my full length, which is 40, and I'll be adding 2-inch hemming allowance, making it 42, and that is the full length of the. I also went ahead to mark out my knee point, which is at 37, and that is all we have for the vertical lines. On this starting point, I'll be placing my waist measurement divided by 4, and I'll be adding 1 inch stitching allowance. On the hip point as well, I'm going to be adding my hip round measurement divided by 4. I'll also be adding 1 inch stitching allowance. On the knee line, I'm going to add my hip measurement plus 1, and on the full length, only my hip measurement. I will be making a curve from the hip area to the waist, and then I'll be drawing a straight line from the hip area down to the knee point and down to the full length of this dress. After cutting out the skirt part, this is what we have. For the sleeves, I have this pattern that I drafted on this channel earlier. If you have not seen the video of how to draft a basic sleeve, you should go and see it. I'm just going to be using this basic sleeve pattern to trace out my first sleeve. That's the sleeve that is not off shoulder. After tracing it out, I'm going to be tracing the same pattern on a pattern paper and marking it out, and this is what I have. I'm going to be coming down from the tip of this pattern paper by 3 inches. I'll be drawing a line across there. The next thing I'll be doing is to go up by half an inch for stitching allowance. Our second sleeve is ready. So these are all the patterns you need for this particular dress. For the off-shoulder sleeve, I'm going to be cutting just one, and I'll be cutting it on a fold. I'll also be cutting one for the second sleeve, which is a full sleeve, and I'll be cutting it on a fold. When there to indicate that for the back piece, I'll be cutting 2 pieces of that pattern. And now for the front pattern, I'll be cutting one fabric and one lining for the left side of the dress, and then for the right part of the dress as well, I'll be cutting 2 pieces of fabric. For the yoke, I'm going to be cutting out 2 pieces of that. Then we have our skirt part, which is a basic straight cut skirt that will be joining to the dress. I went ahead to cut it on my fabric, and this is what we have. I added my stitching allowance in places that I should add them. Hope this tutorial helped you. If it did, if you'll be recreating this style, let me know in the comment section. Like, share and subscribe to the channel. And that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be uploading the second part of this video immediately, so check out the channel to see how I was able to sew it and join those pieces together. Bye.